Hey, so I'm live doing a practical EdTech live session. We're gonna do a little Q&A on Facebook. It's on the Facebook page, Facebook EdTech. But I thought I'd also try to stream it here on YouTube at the same time, just because not everyone's on Facebook. So let's do both. And I'm gonna start the live video on Facebook right now. If you haven't done a Facebook Live before, you can now do it from your desktop, uh, which is great. Sorry about the phone being a little bit shaky right now, but uh, that's best I can do. Kind of in a in flux in my life right now. In fact, in terms of housing situation, sold my house and now living in an apartment temporarily while waiting for the next house to be ready. So I'm actually set up on top of a uh, ironing board at the moment. So we're live. Hi, I'm Richard, and thanks for joining me on this Facebook Live. And we're going to talk today about some common practical ed tech questions, some the type of things that I typically get in my email. If you're here in the live session, please put in a comment. I'd love to have those, and I'd love to answer your questions live as well. A handful of people sent questions into me ahead of time, and we're going to take a look at those right now. So, the first question came from a teacher in San Francisco. He says, I'm working on a project for my French classes so that they can work while I'm in France with one of our travel groups. Good gig. Here's what I'm looking for. Long time ago, I used Rockster.com to create simple web pages, nothing fancy. Choose a background, choose a font, upload picture, embed HTML. It was easy, but then that disappeared. I'm looking for other sites to create simple web pages. What do you recommend? I've got three that I would go with right now. For what this project sounds like, it's kind of a summative project where students are going to be sharing some pictures and sharing some basic video clips. There's three services I would check out. First is TACK, TACCK.com. Check out tack.com. They have a special edu version of it. It's kind of similar to it's kind of similar to Tumblr. It has a little bit of a social networking component to it if you want that, but you don't have to use that. You can have as many tack pages as you want. So that's one option. Another option might be to use Adobe Spark Pages, where you can create simple standalone web pages. And finally, the newest option on the block is Canva. Canva.com, which is known for its infographic design tools, also has some great tools for designing simple web pages that you can publish as standalone pages. Canva would probably be my last option just because they don't support video at this time. So I'd check out TAC and then I'd check out Adobe Spark Pages. Those are the two that I would go with. If your kids are, this sounds like in this particular case, the kids are over 13. If your kids are under 13, TAC EDU is appropriate for kids who are under 13. So hopefully that answers that question. Those are the three that I'd go with right off the bat. The next question that came in, and I'm just going through these in the order that they came in today. Nothing fancy about how I'm choosing them. In fact, if you're looking at the Facebook, at the YouTube live, you can see I just have them copied there in a Google Doc, unedited. Just copied them out of the page and into my Google Doc. So question 2 was, our French teachers would like to be able to give their students an assignment to their French class and share a copy to each student, which can easily be done. If you're using Google Docs, and the question goes on to explain that using Google Docs, you could do that with Google Classroom. And now Google Classroom is open to everyone who has a Gmail account. That should resolve that problem. Now we get to the tricky part. Now here's the tricky part. They want the student to be able to record themselves speaking the paragraph and save it and turn that into their teacher. I've done a bit of research and I've not discovered an easy way of being able to do that yet. So a couple of options came to mind here when I read this question initially this morning. The first one was to do something very simple, because it sounds like this group does have access to Google Docs and has access to Google Classroom. my idea was that you could record it using a very simple tool like Vocaroo, which you can find at vocaroo.com, vocaroo.com. Have students just grab the link for the recording and submit it. My second option was SoundCloud. Now, if you use the old SoundCloud recorder, so if you go to soundcloud.com and select upload, and then use what they call classic upload, that option will allow your students to record using the microphones in their laptops or their Chromebooks, and then they could share that link to you in Google Classroom as well. The other nice thing about SoundCloud, and I've seen this used in a lot of world language classes over the years, SoundCloud lets listeners insert comments, text written comments into the track, so that if a student makes a mistake, let's say in verb conjugation, 20 seconds into the recording, the teacher can go and put in SoundCloud at the 20-second mark, oh, you used the wrong form of the verb here. So it's a nice little feedback tool. So SoundCloud's great option all the way around in world language classes for that sort of thing. Question 3. Question 3 and 4 actually quite similar. Came from two different parts of the world, but it just shows that teaching is teaching kind of wherever you go in the world. I teach 3rd grade. I was thinking of having my kids create videos to share new laser technology solutions that they designed. Sounds like a cool project to me. I've seen some that work like Common Craft videos. If you're not familiar with Common Craft videos, they're the in-plane English videos with paper cutouts, and you drag them across the screen and you talk about them. Sorry, I lost my page there. So I'm sure there's others. The problem is my district blocks everything based on usage policies, and everything, and so many are for 13 years and older. Can you suggest any technologies other than PowerPoint or Google Slides, which is also not highly thought of by our superintendent? In this particular question, I did strip out the with the where in the world this person was for their own protection. So a couple of things came to mind here. If you have access to iPads, and I don't know what this class has, if you have access to iPads, my first thought was you could use something like Shadow Puppet EDU to make some simple videos. One of the things about Shadow Puppet EDU that I really like is that it has an integrated image search tool. Students can also take pictures with their iPads and insert those. And then on top of those pictures, there's some neat little drawing tools and like magic highlighter type of tools that you can add into the video along with some text. So that was one option. And then if you don't have access to iPads, my suggestion would be to use something like seesaw.me. Seesaw.me does have a video component in it now. So if and this project sounds like students are trying to show off their own solutions and their own projects. Seesaw.me, students can take a picture or turn on their webcam and talk for up to 5 minutes on whatever they want, really. So that's kind of a neat option as well. And then question 4, the fourth question that I got this morning, or I've gathered this morning, I should say. I'm trying to find a good resource for 3rd and 4th grade students to create book trailer videos. I know there's Animoto, but since teachers can only have 50 student accounts, it's restricting if I want to do this for several years. I was looking at Adobe Spark, but students need to be 13 years or older. We have Chromeboxes and Chromebooks for student use. Okay. So in this case, a couple of things here. First of all, unless you're looping with these students, I would say you could delete the old Animoto accounts and use new ones the next year. That's one option. Another option you might want to consider is using the YouTube slideshow tool. Now, it sounds like, and I'm going to take a leap here, if you have Chromeboxes and Chromebooks, your students have Google accounts through your school, you have G Suite accounts, and your domain admin should be able to enable YouTube for you within that domain, and the permissions that you use so that kids can use all the other Google tools would also apply there. And the YouTube photo slideshow tool, really simple tool and very similar to Animoto. So you might want to give that one a try. All right. Looking at some other questions. Hey, Sasha, thanks for being here. Thanks for being live. I appreciate it. Anyone else who's watching live on the Facebook feed, please say hello. We've got 8. Well, actually, we had 10 people watching the YouTube broadcast at one point. So let's go on to the next question. What do you suggest as the best way to share resources as documents and web pages for teachers, Google Docs, or Padlet? With the two, kind of the debate there. Hey, and someone's saying hi on the YouTube as well. Thanks. So the debate here is Google Docs or Padlet to share resources with teachers. I would actually argue neither one would be the best way to share, because it sounds like you're trying to build up a list of things that your colleagues or your faculty members can consult on a regular basis. In which case, something more like a Google site or even a blog that has some good categories in it would be a better option, or even a Pinterest page might be a better option. Although Pinterest is not going to do well with documents, so I would argue that, or even just a big shared Google Drive folder might be a better way. Now, if you're looking to just use this on a short-term basis, maybe for a professional development day, you want to share a whole bunch of stuff for that one day, then a Google Doc would be more than adequate, and I would use the goo.gl URL shortener, so I can make a QR code so that people coming in could scan the QR code and get a copy of it. That'd be my solution to that. There's others out there, but using Google Docs or Padlet for a long-term solution for sharing a bunch of resources, I think is going to get kind of ugly after a while. You're just going to have this long scrolling page, and people aren't going to be able to search it very well. So I might try something for a longer term for a Google site, or even Diigo would be DIIGO, Diigo.com, which has been around for a long time, but it's still very, very effective. All right. Another question that I have here. And a question just came in on the YouTube. What are the best free apps that you are aware of to be used with Google VR? No, favorite green screen capability and a Chromebook. All right, so my phone is dying over here, so I'm going to answer the YouTube questions first, and then I'll come back to the Facebook questions. So my favorite Google VR, I just did a YouTube hangout with Greg Kulik, who has an awesome list of resources. You can find him at edtechteacher.org/VR. One of my favorite things is the Google Expeditions, and just being able to have kids immerse in Google Expeditions and see things in ways that they couldn't before. Now, with that, I would say don't let kids just go on an expedition and say, "Oh, we're gonna go to Australia and go explore the Great Barrier Reef." Before I do that, I want them to look at the map and have a greater context of it. And this is why I get excited about VR, because kids can look at that global map and go, "Oh, I wonder what it looks like there," and have them form some ideas ahead of time, or some guesses ahead of time. Oh, what does it look like in Australia? What would it look like to go diving? And kind of form those ideas ahead of time, and then look at that same place in virtual reality and see if their ideas match up and line up. So, all right. So another question that popped up there: green screen. Someone asked about green screen. I forget what the actual question was. Sorry. Sorry, I lost the question about green screen. So green screen on a Chromebook. Thanks, Karen. Green screen on a Chromebook. Unfortunately, the best solution I know of is not a free solution. It's in WeVideo. You do have to pay. You do have to pay for that option. There are some free elements of WeVideo, but the green screen you have to pay for it. But that really is the best one out there. There's some apps available in the Android marketplace that eventually will hopefully come to the Chromebook. If your school is one of the schools that has Chromebooks that are compatible with Android apps, there's going to be a lot of potential there. But right now, the best one is WeVideo. So I hope that answers your question. Unfortunately, it's not free, but it's it's a solution. All right. So the other question here on Facebook Live. And thanks everyone for putting their questions in and watching. My students have made a blog in order to use it as an e-portfolio. Love that idea. By the way, follow Sylvia Tolosano's work. Sylvia Rosenthal Tolosano. You can find her at langwitches.org. She has some great ideas on using blogs for e-portfolios. But so the question is, my students have a blog in order to use as an e-portfolio. So every student has a blog. I'd like to know if an app exists that makes it easier for me to follow all of them. And what is the most practical way to do this? I'd like to be able to see all the blogs in the same window. The tool that I would use is Feedly. And I do use Feedly. Feedly.com, I would go in and subscribe to all of my students' blogs so that I can scroll through and see whenever they've updated, and I can just scroll through. Even if I had 100 students, I can scroll through all of their blogs and see the latest thing that they've written. I can click on it. I can go right to their blog from there if I needed to. If I needed to write a comment, I can go right from Feedly into their blog. But that's going to be the easiest way to keep track of a lot of student blogs at once. And this second question here. So question 6 was actually a two-part question. How do you go about? My second question is about an app to make videos. How do you know of an app? Sorry, I'm reading this verbatim. So how do you know of an app in which you can insert animated GIFs? So you can do that in Adobe Spark. You can do that as well. All right. Yep, Karen, just to clarify, WeVideo. W-E video. Like you and me. WeVideo.com. And there was one other question in there. Oh, I just lost this. Mirroring the Chromebook screen to a projector. Robin, depends on the projector that you have. I have a projector that supports an HDMI input, and I just use a Chromecast through the Wi-Fi network. Works really well. Otherwise, I just plug it in. There's so many variations, and the problem is there's so many variations of Chromebooks and so many different versions of them at this point that it's hard to say exactly which one I would use. But if you just want to mirror it, I would use and you have an HDMI input in your projector, I would use a Chromecast. It's the best $30 or $35 I've spent for that type of purpose. All right, so let's take a look back over here at the Facebook Live. Someone asked, my favorite LMS for a K-8 school district. Whew. Yeah, this is one I have to admit, I usually stay away from LMS recommendations because there are so many variables that go into it. But I will make a recommendation here. Depending on the size of your school district, I would check out Otis. O-T-U-S. You can find it at otis.com. It's more than just like everything else. It's more than just an LMS. You can do your attendance. You can do your basic stuff like that, but you can also go in and search for content that you want to share with your students and share, in the form of a quiz or in the form of just here's an article I want you to read and I want you to comment on it. So I would take a look at Otis. Full disclosure, the other reason that I like Otis is I really like the people who are developing Otis. met them a handful of times, and they're all educators. It was started by a high school teacher who was looking for a better solution to his problem. He's still a high school teacher. He's still, but there's a whole team. It's not like one guy in his basement. There's a whole team in Chicago developing Otis. There's about 40 of them now, and it's I think it's going to be a great platform moving forward. So that's I would take a look at that. Then you always have the big players. You know, you've got your Pearson solutions and your big corporate solutions, but I really like what Otis is doing right now. So, all right, and I think may have been one other question in there. My favorite sites are blocked in China. I've started teaching online in China. My favorite. Any advice? Advice for getting past the Chinese firewall. I don't have advice for getting past the Chinese firewall, but if you have a specific app in mind, I'd be more than happy to try to find an alternative for you and provide an alternative option. So it's kind of a non-answer, unfortunately, but I'd be more than happy to provide you with an alternative to specific apps. So you can send me an email, richardbyrne@freetechforteachers.com, and I'll try to do that as quickly as I can. But as for getting past the Chinese firewall, other than a VPN, I don't have a whole lot of tips on how to get past the great Chinese firewall. All right. So, you're welcome, Sarah. Thank you for joining in and putting in your questions. And looks like someone emailed me a question as this popped up right now. No, that was not. No, I thought. Oh, and Karen weighed in on the answer to the Chinese firewall question. When I went to China, I had the same problem. Actually, I had to use the Apple blog at the time to communicate with students. Everything was blocked. Sorry, that's communism. So it wasn't a solution. It's just Karen sharing her experience as well. All right. Okay. So that, I think, wraps it up. I'm not going to keep rambling just for the sake of rambling. I will just say thanks again for joining me for the last 20 minutes of me rambling and answering your questions. I'm happy to do it. I'd love to do this again. Maybe I'll do it next Thursday at the same time if people are interested in it. If you're interested in doing that, let me know, and we'll do it live on Facebook and on YouTube. So thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.